Welcome to Marketing Mindsets. I'm your host, Ntabi Singh, and today we are unpacking Made to Stick, a remarkable book by Chip and Dan Heath that has profoundly shaped how we think about creating memorable messages since it hit our shelves in 2007. Have you ever wondered why do some ideas stick in our minds while others disappear without a trace? Or better yet, why do urban legends or gossip spread like wildfire while important messaging or company announcements are forgotten by the next morning? So these are the questions that lie at the heart of Made to Stick, which has sold over 1 million copies and become essential reading for marketers, educators, and communicators worldwide. We live in a world drowning in information. Every day, we are bombarded with thousands of messages competing for our limited attention. So, in this environment, creating ideas that actually stick, that people understand, remember, and act upon has become the central challenge of effective communication. Before Made to Stick, most communication advice focused on presentation techniques or stylistic elements. The Heath brothers took a different approach. Drawing on 10 years of research, they identified the structural elements that make certain ideas inherently memorable, regardless of their delivery method. The result was a framework so powerful and versatile that it's now applied across business, education, healthcare, and virtually every field where effective communication matters. At the heart of this book is the success framework, a six principle approach to creating ideas that endure in memory. So these six are simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories. So, what do these actually mean? So, simple is finding the core of your idea and expressing it concisely, followed by unexpected, which is breaking patterns to capture attention and create curiosity. Then there's concrete, and concrete is using tangible language and the imagery that people can grasp. Then there's credible, and then credibility is making your ideas believable without necessarily relying on authority. Followed by emotional, and emotional is ensuring that people care by appealing to their feelings, not just their intellect. And then lastly is stories. And this is around wrapping ideas in narratives that inspire action. Each of these principles addresses a specific cognitive challenge in message creation, and together they form a powerful toolkit for crafting truly sticky ideas. Let's look at some of my favorite campaigns that have applied these principles within the South African context. The first one is Sasol's Glug Glug campaign, which exemplified multiple sticky principles. This campaign created a simple, concrete messaging with an unexpected and memorable sound that became synonymous with the Sasol brand, making the abstract concept of fuel quality tangible through distinctive audio branding. I remember I'm a glug glug, and everybody would always, every time they see the ad or they see the brand, go glug 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 glug. That was a really memorable one. And then another one would be the Arrive Alive road safety campaign, which also used concrete and emotional messaging along with storytelling to make the dangers of reckless driving memorable. And lastly would be the Vuka Sizwe campaign, which was created during the early days of democracy. And it also used simple emotional messaging with powerful storytelling to unite South Africans behind a common vision. To me, these campaigns didn't just capture attention momentarily, they created a lasting impression that influenced behavior and became part of our cultural consciousness. I mean, for the mere fact that I can still remember them and remember how I felt when I saw them says a lot. As we do with our episodes, we look at the books that we explored in the previous weeks and compare them to the book that we're exploring this week. And if you can remember, last week we explored the Blue Ocean Strategy. So both these frameworks have transformed business thinking and they approached innovation from different angles. The Blue Ocean Strategy focused on creating uncontested market spaces through value innovation, while Made to Stick concentrates on how to communicate ideas effectively so they endure in memory. Then we also explored that Blue Ocean Strategy asks, how can we make competition irrelevant? While Made to Stick asks, how can we make our messaging unforgettable? The Blue Ocean Strategy also employs tools like Strategy Canvas and 4 Actions frameworks to find new markets, while Made to Stick provides principles for packaging ideas so they actually stick regardless of which market you're in. So these frameworks complement each other beautifully because the Blue Ocean Strategy helps you identify transformative opportunities, while Made to Stick ensures your communication about these opportunities actually resonates and endures. So we've explored the principles of Made to Stick, and the important thing to ask really is how does one then apply these principles? So, applying the Made to Stick principles involve several key steps. And we have looked at 6 and identified 6 which we would like to share. The first one would be asking yourself, what's the single most important idea you need to communicate? Then you follow it by how can you violate the expectations to create some form of attention? Then you can also ask, how can you translate abstract concepts into tangible examples? Another question you can ask yourself is, how can you make your idea believable without relying solely on authority? The fifth one would be, what feelings will motivate your audience to actually care? And lastly, you can then ask yourself, what narrative can carry your idea forward? Considering all of these, here's a simple example. So instead of saying our new software increases productivity by 25%, a sticky version could be our new software gives you your Friday afternoons back, right? This message is simple, it's concrete, it's unexpected, it's credible, it's emotional, and suggests a story about reclaiming lost time. So, as with anything that is created, it always looks simple and feasible. But it's also important that we consider the challenges that come with that. And we just want to highlight 4 challenges that have been identified by the authors in this book. And those are the curse of knowledge, organizational resistance, context blindness, and lastly, ethical consideration. So, what do we mean by this? From a curse of knowledge perspective, it basically means once we know something, it's really hard to remember what it's like not to know it. And then from an organizational resistance perspective, we all know that many companies prefer comprehensive completeness over focused simplicity. I mean, the easiest example one can come up with is that you still have some companies that send you newsletters that are so long, and you're still trying to figure out what is the complete message that these people are actually trying to share and what can stick in my mind. Then thirdly would be the context blindness. So what that means is what sticks in one's cultural context may not actually work in another. And lastly would be the ethical consideration, whereas sticky ideas can be used for manipulation as well as education. So, with these considered, the authors of the book acknowledge these difficulties, particularly the curse of knowledge, which they identify as the greatest barrier to creating sticky communities. So, this book was published in 2007, and one would ask themselves, how relevant is this book in this modern day? And to be honest, the frameworks that are used within this book continue to evolve and be relevant in our rapidly changing communication landscape. I mean, the current era where our attention span is shrinking, the principles have become even more essential. Social media platforms reward precisely the kind of sticky content that the authors advocate for. The principles also apply seamlessly to newer formats like short form video and interactive media. And in our multicultural society, sticky ideas can bridge divides and create shared understanding. So, as information overload intensifies, the ability to create truly memorable messages becomes an increasingly valuable. The Heath brothers' lasting contribution reminds us that ideas don't stick by accident. The most memorable messages are deliberately crafted using principles that align with how human memory and attention actually works. So, this wraps up this week's episode. Join us next week as we explore design thinking and its impact on marketing strategy. Until then, ask yourself, are your ideas built to stick or designed to disappear? Catch